Arcade Heroes.
Greetings, it's Adam with ArcadeHeroes.com, and on the site this past Saturday came a major news story, which is kind of rare in the arcade business. I mean, granted, in this industry, news will just pop up whenever it pops up. It's not like it's always set to be, say, Monday morning at 7 for something to come along. But this is not something that Bandai Namco Amusements really wanted to announce, but in the world of arcades, how a lot of stuff becomes known out there is oftentimes without an official announcement. But as it says on ArcadeHeroes.com, and if you've already read this story, thank you for visiting the site, do appreciate it, is Bandai Namco Amusements is testing a sequel to DeadStorm Pirates in Japan. Now, before I get into the new game, let's go way back down memory lane, back before I had a tripod, and when I would just point a camera at, or hold a camera at games when I go to trade shows. This one was taken at Amusement Expo 2010 when I was at Namco's booth and got to see the DeadStorm Pirates ending. So DeadStorm Pirates is a game that many of you watching might have played before. It came out around the 2009-2010 era, and it came in a cabinet that we like to call an environmental cabinet or environmental deluxe. Everybody has a little different name for it, but it's one of those cabinets that are kind of enclose you. You sit inside of them. There's something to your back, generally with speakers and a viewport so people walking by can see into the machine, and those have been popular for a long time. Sega really popularized them, said that wrong, that with games like Lost World, Jurassic Park, way back in the 90s. But DeadStorm Pirates, when it came along, it played on the whole Pirates mania that was going on with Pirates of the Caribbean and movies like that, to bring that sort of thing to arcades without needing something like a Pirates of the Caribbean license, which would have made the game even more expensive. And who really needs to license something like that, right? You just need to come up with your own pirate characters. And so this game did pretty well on the market. I don't know the exact sales numbers, but again, chances are if you visited an arcade in the past 13 years or so, you've maybe come across it. Let me go to this here, where the game did well enough that, well, it got a port for the PlayStation 3 using PS Move controllers. Same thing with Time Crisis 4, I think it was, and Raising Storm. But the game did well enough in arcades that it got a special edition, and the special edition made it a little bit more arcade exclusive as far as I'm aware, but I could be wrong about this. The special edition software did not get released to consoles, and so this added 2 new levels to the game and also came in this new cabinet. And so, as even said, new on the fortress and the tower there, and maybe it slightly upgraded the graphics. But one other interesting thing about the game was that it had a pirate wheel, or a ship's wheel, there in the center, and so the players had to work together to use that. I mean, granted, you could only kind of do one person at a time, although both of you could spin it in the direction, make it go even faster. But yeah, that one was also available for a while. I can't remember exactly when they stopped production on this game. Unfortunately, arcade manufacturers rarely will mention if they when they stop production on something. They just stop it and nobody really hears about it. But there are elements of this that were found in what I would call a spiritual sequel, Lost Land Adventure, that Namco released. I want to say that was 2017 maybe, where that one had a dome screen, but also a lot of the assets like you see here in these ruins were similar in Lost Land Adventure. But again, it's not an exact sequel. to DeadStorm Pirates just because it takes place in modern times. So maybe you could say it was the same universe as DeadStorm Pirates on Lost Land Adventure, but definitely not a proper sequel. But going over to the site, let's look at the news. And so what happened was there was a tweet on Japanese Twitter, this one in particular from Aeon Stands, that showed this marquee here and from the translation it just said, yeah, new or a sequel, and it's both. Fortunately, by within a few hours, we got a better look at this new cabinet of DeadStorm Pirates. And I did reach out personally to a contact that I have at Bandai Namco Amusements America to verify if this was legit. Of course, I did so before I even saw this particular picture or this tweet, which comes from Aries Game Room. So they're very well known in Japanese arcade circles. They go out to arcades quite often. They'll review games. They also will look at location tests, visit location tests, and they'll tend to take pictures like these, but they'll only do so from the exterior of the cabinet. It's extremely rare that they'll show the inside, like showing the game and stuff like that. As with Japanese location tests, which if you're not familiar with that term, it's the beta test for the arcade industry. And so a game developer will develop a game to a point where they think it's ready to go out on location and see what people's reaction would be to it. And they do this in the United States as well as Japan. So they'll put it out somewhere. Oftentimes they won't announce it. They'll just put it somewhere and see what happens without any hype, without any marketing, and just see how the game organically performs. And so that's what they see here. It's just in Japan, they tend to prohibit any sort of photography, any sort of video of the game itself. And in part that's because, and this is something that I should have stressed at the beginning too, and I stressed it on the post, was that when you see something on location test, chances are what the final product will be, if it even reaches full production, will be very different from what you see here. And of course, these days, people make snap judgments just based on a headline or on one photo, and they won't get the full context of a product, and so they'll make some assumptions and then just pass judgment there and decide whether or not a game sucks or not. And so, just have to stress that this could change drastically by the time it hits production, and that will be a while. From what Namco said, this is not coming soon. In fact, it sounded like late 2024. So, I mean, unless things pick up in game development and say the testing does really well and what they've got is really working, that it speeds things up. I mean, it might be at the IAPA 2023 trade show, which happens in November of this year in Orlando, and I'll be there, barring any sort of emergency circumstances. And so if it's there, I'll film it, play it, and all that. But I would assume that from these pictures that we see here, here's the back of the prototype cabinet. And again, I am 100% certain that this will change. I mean, this right here with the kind of holographic stickers and everything, and maybe adding a little bit of parallax to the back, it looks like it's just kind of an early thing. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to still try to do something three-dimensional with popping out of these assets or different assets, but I would highly doubt that it would look exactly like this when they reach full production. And they may even change the name. And so, I mean, DeadStorm Pirates sounds a little odd. I mean, obviously there's probably I'm saying all these adverbs here, but that I shouldn't be using. It looks like there's a pretty strong focus on gold, collecting treasure for this one. It's been a long time since I played DeadStorm Pirates, so I remember something about treasure in there, but it wasn't like the thing. Now, Namco did release another game in the mid-2010s called Dark Escape 4D, which had all these effects. It was also within an environmental cabinet. You might have come across that one, but it also was slightly harder to find just because the cabinet sold for somewhere around $35,000 when it was released, and they only released one cabinet design, whereas DeadStorm Pirates, they had a motion version of this environmental sit-down, a non-motion, and then they came out with what we call a standard upright, where you just stand at the cabinet, you're not enclosed in anything, and so that allowed it to get out there more frequently. I think there was also a special Chuck E. Cheese's edition of that upright cabinet, which was just shorter. But for now, the main cabinet that they're testing is this one, which has these different effects, and you don't need to understand Japanese to understand the symbols here. So there is a motion seat, there are wind effects, you have the pirate steering wheel, and then you have surround sound. Whether that's 5.1 channel or 7.1 channel, who knows, but of course, again, it could change between now and production, but seeing this cabinet here, that you have some new characters here that weren't in DeadStorm Pirates, as well as a new blue-eyed skeleton captain. I'm sure he'll have a name. And then on this picture here, you can barely see it, but right there you can see the steering wheel, and this does look to have a different molding than what the production DeadStorm Pirates cabinets had. But again, anything and everything could change on this, so it's hard to say, and that child is not happy about that. But but that's what we know about the sequel to DeadStorm Pirates. Again, no clue on what the cost might be on this, when it will come out, if it will come out, how this plays, what's entirely different about it. We'll probably have to wait. I've been scouring more of Japanese Twitter to see if there's been more than this to pop up, but so far this is the best that we've got. But what do you think about it? What are you looking forward to? We've already had some comments out there, people saying, well, what about Lost Land Adventure, or mainly questions about that. But yeah, I think it's great. I look forward to what this might end up being. I mean, hopefully it doesn't suck. That's what you always hope for. And it's interesting that Namco is going back into their catalog and doing more sequels. As I've recently shown a lot of videos for Dead Heat Unleashed, was released in February, and that's a sequel to Dead Heat Street Racing, which came out around 2010, 2011. And so is there something else from Namco that you would like to see a sequel to? I'm a little bit surprised I haven't heard people asking for Time Crisis 6, but it does seem like people didn't really take to Time Crisis 5. I enjoyed the game. I liked the dual pedal controls on that. Wasn't able to get a Time Crisis 5. I have a 2 and a 3, but one of these days maybe I'll find a 5 used. But any other games from Bandai Namco that you'd like to see a sequel to? Comment below. And also, right before I end, I wanted to just highlight something that if you want to help the site out, Arcade Heroes in particular, I've opened up a new store on Redbubble. I've been doing one on TeePublic for a while, but Redbubble seems like they offer a few more options on products, as well as some better things on the back end for artists, where I've got some things up. And so if you want to help us out, then you can head over there. May also open up a members section here on YouTube here soon, as I've been having some ideas. I've just wanted to be able to have enough content to make it worth the while of having a membership, and so I do have an idea for that. But let me know what you think about that, and for any of you who have supported us through those means, thank you very much. It really does help. And so this is mainly just a labor of love, the Arcade Heroes site. And so I really appreciate everybody's support. But anyways, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video.